Imagine being on vacation in Sicily, taking photos of Europe's most active volcano, when suddenly the mountain starts exploding behind you. That's exactly what happened to dozens of tourists yesterday when Mount Etna decided to put on one of its most violent shows in years. June 2nd started like any other holiday in Italy. Families were celebrating Festa Repubblica, tour groups were making their way up Etna's slopes, and Jamie Boone was capturing what she thought would be some nice vacation photos. Then around 1 in the afternoon, the mountain erupted. The videos are absolutely wild. You see tourists literally running for their lives down the volcanic paths, while this massive plume of ash and smoke rises thousands of feet into the sky behind them. One tour operator had 40 people on the mountain when it happened. Some visitors kept filming even as they fled, while others just focused on getting down as fast as possible. But here's what made this eruption particularly intense. The entire northern flank of Etna's southeast crater collapsed. Think about that for a second. Part of the volcano literally fell in on itself, creating what scientists call pyroclastic flows. These aren't your typical lava flows that slowly creep down a mountain. We're talking about avalanches of superheated gas, ash, and rock racing down at speeds up to 700 kilometers per hour. The temperature inside these flows can hit 1,000 degrees Celsius. Stefano Branca from Italy's Volcano Monitoring Institute said they hadn't seen anything this intense since February 2021. Before that, you'd have to go back to 2014 to find a similar event. The southeast crater had been showing increased activity for months, 9 eruptions just between March and April of this year. But nobody expected this level of violence. The collapse triggered what volcanologists call a lava fountain, basically when lava shoots up into the air like a fiery geyser. The ash plume rose at least 4 miles high, prompting aviation authorities to issue a code red warning. Houses in nearby towns were shaking from the tremors. The local airport raised its alert level, though flights kept running. Now, before you think this was some catastrophic disaster, here's the interesting part. Despite all the drama and those terrifying videos, local authorities never declared an emergency for the surrounding population. The pyroclastic flows, as deadly as they are, stayed within what's called the Valley of the Lion, a natural containment area high up on the mountain where tourist excursions typically stop anyway. This is actually one of the fascinating things about Etna. It's constantly active, which sounds dangerous, but that regular activity makes it somewhat predictable. When volcanoes stay quiet for long periods, pressure builds up underground. Then, when they finally blow, you get these massive, devastating eruptions. Etna releases pressure regularly, so while it puts on spectacular shows like yesterday's, it rarely poses serious danger to the towns scattered around its base. The mountain is covered in monitoring equipment, seismographs, thermal cameras, GPS stations tracking ground movement. Scientists at the Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology in Catania watch this data 24/7. They knew something was building when volcanic tremors started around 10 p.m. on June 1st. By the time the main eruption hit the next afternoon, they'd already closed the summit area to hikers. Sicily's regional president Renato Schifani called it a phenomenon we're following with extreme caution, but stressed that the lava flows hadn't breached their natural boundaries. By late afternoon, the ash emissions had stopped. The volcanic tremor readings dropped from high to medium low, suggesting the worst was over. What makes Etna so special isn't just that it's Europe's tallest active volcano at nearly 11,000 feet. It's that people have been living in its shadow for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks believed it was the forge of Hephaestus, god of fire and metalworking. Today, about 1 million people live in the cities and towns around its base. They've learned to coexist with this unpredictable neighbor. The volcano erupts at least once a year, sometimes much more. Just over a year ago, it was making headlines for creating these rare vortex rings, basically smoke rings blown from the crater. Local farmers actually benefit from the volcanic soil, which is incredibly fertile. Wine from Etna's slopes is considered some of the best in Italy. But days like June 2nd remind everyone that this isn't some tame tourist attraction. Those tourists running down the mountain got a story they'll never forget. Jamie Boone's caption said it all. All. Safe, but it was scary. Some visitors were spotted calmly taking photos from several hundred yards away, even as others fled in panic. Different comfort levels with an exploding volcano, apparently. The timing couldn't have been more dramatic. Italy's national holiday meant larger crowds than usual. Tour groups that would normally have smaller numbers were packed. And while the eruption was building overnight, most tourists had no idea what was coming when they started their ascent that morning. By evening, the mountain had calmed down. The ash had settled. The tourists had made it safely back to their hotels with incredible footage and stories. Scientists added another data point to their decades of Etna observations, and the volcano went back to its usual rumbling, steam-venting state until the next time it decides to remind everyone who's really in charge on that corner of Sicily. Mount Etna has been erupting for 500,000 years. This latest show was just another chapter in its incredibly long story. For the tourists who experienced it firsthand, though, it was probably the most exciting and terrifying few minutes of their entire vacation. What do you think? Would you visit an active volcano?